Hello, everybody. How you all doing today? It is so good to see you. We are so glad to be live again for this week in supervision. Man, oh man, it's been an amazing week and some amazing topics have been discussed. And this one that we're about to get into today comes close to home in a lot of our homes. Okay. And so what we like to do in supervision is bring theory into practice, bring challenging situations that the client that you might be experiencing or your supervisees might be experiencing in practice, bringing this into real life situations and circumstances. And let me tell you, the example that we're going to give today is just going to blow your mind because today our title, what we're talking about, is facing the wound. Whew. Supporting clients and confronting their pain. All right, facing the wound, and it's supposed to be wound. I don't know how it's showing up, but we're we're facing the wound, okay? Because a lot of our clients have been hurt, and so we're gonna go on and get into some of the topic here. And so what I like to do is start off by yeah, but start off by maybe giving some test questions and things like that. And I'm going to show you a demo of some of the questions that we went over when we were talking about this subject. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to get into a video, and in this video, you're going to see a demonstration of someone who is pretty much been in crisis, okay, as far as their emotional state, because they have not been able to confront individuals that have caused them pain, or they may not have been able to have voice and speak out what's really lying beneath, and it's probably caused them a lot of problems. I don't know the person, so we can't say, right? But we're going to show the video. And the question that the person had is the very question that you might have in practice, okay? And because we are many times supposed to be miracle workers, so sometimes I get asked questions and I'm like praying like, oh boy, I hope I can get the answer to this, right? And this is a pointed question right here somebody was needing help with. And Peter Crone, I don't know if you're familiar with him, I love his work. Peter Crone approaches this question in a great way. The question is, how do I get rid of anger towards a parent that I didn't feel safe with? Okay. Now, when we're talking about feeling safe, that doesn't just mean safety from the standpoint of physical abuse and sexual abuse. That also means safety from the standpoint of I just don't feel like I'm going to be listened to or heard. Okay. All right. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, right? So, like I said, what we do is we will start off with a couple of test questions, and we're going to get into that in just a second. But what I like to do in supervision is have somewhat of a build, so we can understand how to work interventions in multiple ways, okay? From the standpoint of theory, but theory being laid out into practice, right? And so let's go to our demo here. Um, and this, okay, all right. So, and this was the first question that I had. We're not going to go over this question because we don't have time, but what we're basically trying to do, and you can see the answer is A for this, is what we're basically trying to do is help supervisees to be able to understand what medications, what they're being used for, how they're being used, what classification many of the medications are, because some of these questions can be on the clinical exam, but also it comes into play when we're in practice, that we need to know the answers to this. We even talked about the term off label and what that means, and discuss how off label means a licensed provider's prescribing medications for something outside of the official FDA approval use. And we found that was probably what happened with the use of Viagra. We know what that's used for, right? And we talked about that a little bit, and how that was originally assigned maybe for blood pressure or something like that. But then they found out, hey, this is medication is having even greater results than I anticipated. And so then they started prescribing it for something else. Okay. But The question is, how do I get rid of the anger towards a parent that I didn't feel safe with? So here we go. Let's get to the question here. All right. Here's a question. I want you to see if you know, if you think you know the answer to it. So here it is. Here's our client. We're bringing it home. A woman struggling with unresolved anger from childhood emotional abuse. Anybody ever experienced anger from childhood emotional abuse? All right. Any of your clients ever experienced anger from childhood emotional abuse? But in this case, the person feels guilty for having angry thoughts towards her parents. Because who wants to be angry at their parent for something that they have done? She believes, this is so common. She believes she shouldn't be angry. So now she's judging herself. She shouldn't be angry, even though her pain is real. Okay. So from a Freudian perspective, according to Freud's structural model, all right, what part of her psyche is most responsible for the guilt? And we had to refresh the group on this because we hadn't taught Freud, and Freud is considered somewhat the father of psychology, right? And so on the test, if there's anyone we need to know about, that will be Freud. Anyway, we got to move. So a woman, how far in are we? Okay, we're 6 minutes. We got to go. All right. So according to Freud, the answer in this situation, in this case, would be C, super ego. Did you get that one? It would be the super ego, because if you look at the super ego, many times it's this example that's used that you have the good side and you have the bad side, right? And so the super ego represents that good side that is trying to tell you the right thing to do. But sometimes it can be kind of conservative. So you might have the devil on one side, and then you got an angel on the other side. And the angel is supposed to sometimes be represented by the super ego. But sometimes the super ego is not so angelic because it can be judgmental. And so what we learn is that when we're talking about the super ego, we're talking about morality. Okay. And so who shapes morality? Even before we know who God or anybody is, um, we pretty much have started to learn from a parent, and they have started to shape the morality in that child. And so that's who we learn from before anybody. So based on what that was and how it was presented, will tell you how your client functions and thinks internally inside and what they're thinking. So this is the thing here. So uh the super ego holds internalized moral beliefs, and it causes guilt when one violates those standards, right? So we're gonna skip on past. We don't need you looking at all that. Okay, so we narrowed it down. We only have a few left. And so we asked the group, which part of the psyche is most responsible for the original emotional drive to express anger? Is anger okay, or is it not? How would you approach this with your client? So we got A, ego, B, preconscious, or C, id. What do you think the answer is for today? All right. And so we gave them time to do that. And in this situation, that other side, when we have the devil versus the angel, and they're both talking in your ear, in some scenarios it's not really like that. The id would be the evil one or the bad one, because the id wants what it wants, and it doesn't care about the consequences. It wants what it wants when it wants it. Doesn't care about the consequences. Doesn't care that I might hurt somebody. Doesn't care I might harm somebody's emotional state. It just wants what it wants. And guess what? Between the two lies the ego, which is the reality principle, and so it kind of levels things off between the id and the ego. Okay. I mean, the id and the super ego. All right. And so, yes, the answer for this one is going to be C. Okay. All right. And so we use this example too. So we can see, I want to scream at them right now. I want to scream at them right now. Is sometimes what our clients are thinking when they're talking to their parents, or when they have talked to their parents, or when they are talking to now people who represent their parents who might live in their home right now. Okay, that's on a deeper level, right? So that we're looking at this situation. So the id is saying, man, I want to scream at them right now. That's the id. It just wants to go off. Okay. And then we have the super ego that says, you know what, that would be wrong and disrespectful. Okay. And then we have the ego that says, let me take a breath. That's parasympathetic, right? When we take that exhale. Super ego, I mean super uh sympathetic is the fight, flight, freeze, that type of deal, right? So regulate my body and let me speak calmly so I can be heard. So that's what the ego is trying to regulate. So what happens sometimes, there is this dilemma because the super ego is not always telling you that, hey, this is wrong. Okay, which it might be wrong to just go off, but is it not wrong to talk about it? So the super ego can be somewhat rigid and just says, don't talk about it. Don't worry about you. You shouldn't have been angry, put that away, but it doesn't necessarily tell you the rational type of thing. And that's what the ego does. It's more of a rational, realistic way of thinking. So then we start to understand that it is okay to talk about some things. So aside from anger is what you, if you're meeting with the client and they're saying, she asked the question, I want to not be angry, I don't want to be angry like this, what do I do about it? And so you might present to her, we're using tools, y'all, we're using tools. That emotional wheel, you need to have one. You could download the PDF right online, just look up the wheel of emotions, emotional wheel. But aside from anger, we gotta hurry up. Aside from anger, what are 2 or 3 other emotions that you notice yourself feeling? And in this case, we're going to go to anger. If you notice, most of these are negative types of emotions besides happy, because this is many times described as the emotion, the common emotions of all humans. It's going to fall within these, what is about 6, I believe. Surprise may be semi okay, but happy is really only good one. But anger, we're talking about hurt or frustrated. So our client says hurt or frustrated. Hurt and frustration is what she is feeling. And so we start the process. Is that you're feeling infuriated or irritated, or is it that hurt? Are you devastated, embarrassed? We start processing this, and this helps to get the emotions to words, because guess what, this client has not been used to expressing this. All right, let's skip on down. So let's get to just to make a note too, under anger she chooses frustration and hurt. This is what generally we're treating. Because anger is a secondary emotion. It's not at all really what we're treating. We want to know what's beneath that anger. Beneath the tip of the iceberg is what Freud, how he described it. And so what is it? So anger management doesn't simply mean that we're treating anger. All right. So I think it's time for our video, and it's about 3 minutes, and we are kind of deep in here, but we're gonna try to transition really quickly here. Y'all want to pay attention to this, man. This Peter Crone guy, he really is about that business. And we're going to try to see if we can. Oh, my goodness. Okay, here we go. We're going to try to see if we can share the video. You don't want to miss this. All right, here we go. Check this out. Pretend as if this is your client. How would you work with this? How would you deal with it? Okay, let's get this. This client process, so we can help her. Peter does it in 3.
Get rid of the anger that I have towards the parent that I didn't feel safe with.
All right.
So anger is there, is it?
How do I get rid of the anger that I have towards the parent that I didn't feel safe with?
So anger is there, is it not?
Yes.
And you're trying to get rid of anger.
Yeah.
So what does that make you feel?
Frustrated.
See,
Yeah,
already, I'm sorry, I'm gonna let it play, y'all. But already Peter here, and I'm not saying that we need to do this. I'm not saying that he's doing therapy. This is not therapy. You got to do what you do in therapy. We're focusing on pretending as if this is the client. And what we see right here is there's a question about how do you feel. So even without the wheel, she's saying, I feel frustrated. Okay. And so we're already processing these things just in real time.
And you're trying to get rid of anger.
Yeah.
So what does that make you feel?
Frustrated.
Yeah, which is akin to anger.
Right, yeah.
So how's that working out?
Not so good.
So you look at the parent with whom you have this anger towards, which really is on the continuum of a form of real judgment. And yet, because you're smart, you're intellectual, you've done work, you've listened to podcasts, mine or others, you're like, okay, maybe I should have forgiveness. That's the answer. But really what you're creating is more judgment now of you having anger.
Right.
Which is creating anger.
Right.
Which is like...
The parent.
Ooh. And it doesn't condone whatever happened. What I hear under anger is a lot of hurt.
Yes.
But underneath the hurt, there's somebody who's asking to be held, to be seen. A protection mechanism for hurt is anger. You beat a dog one too many times, it's going to start and growl and bark and even bite. It's not a bad dog. It's just going on the evidence that you can't trust a hand that comes near you. So your anger is a survival mechanism for deep hurt. But you're also on top of that, it's compounded because now you're actually trying to not allow yourself to feel the hurt.
Okay.
So really underneath it, there's somebody who's hurt, who's desperately trying to put it on somebody else and yet make themselves wrong for putting it on somebody else, and you're in this vicious cycle of a lot of pain.
Yes.
So whatever your care provider couldn't provide for you, I'm going to assert you can. And this group certainly is here for it. I'm here for it. Because whilst you have this intellectual coping mechanism, which is superimposing judgment on somebody else, what's actually really at play is you're just wanting a safe enough space to feel hurt. Everything that we feel comes down to two primordial emotions. We're either hurt or we're scared, usually both. And if we could make safe space for ourselves to realize there's a part of us that's hurt and scared because we're human and shit happens. And rather than try and get away from it, get rid of it, kick it, overcome it, blame a parent, just go, can I be a big enough human being to just feel hurt right now? And I don't know how many years that's been there.
Watch
But
this,
is how people get sick.
Boom.
Dis-ease is the precursor to, there you go. Yeah. Someone just
So if you're with the client right now, you want to take a moment sometimes to allow for that to just come out, or you can do like what Peter did, but you want to make a mental note that because she's responded to this because what? Likely she has been sick, probably physically, because of this pain that she's been suffering with inside and unable to release. Right? He hit it, and that's why she's breaking down. So then you don't have to try to help her breathe, maybe, and some things like that, or just let it play out.
Their arm around her. Thank you, Cambria. Folks, this is everyday life. We don't know what she went through, but we've all got our own version. This is so beautiful. She gets to step in a new world where she's just not walking around in pain. This is why people are on all sorts of medication. Street, prescribed food, TV, sex, weed, cigarettes. It's a real privilege to sit with somebody who has the courage to do this. I had no idea this was going to happen. I'm so grateful though that you as a collective are sufficiently kind and loving to hold space for someone to actually process something that's been there probably for decades. We love you. Really. Thank you for letting us in.
Peter Crone, y'all. Peter Crone. All right. So let's stop this video if we can, and stop the share and get on back here to close out. Boy, that was powerful. He's become one of my favorites because he's processing that thing in real time. Now, let me see if I could get my notes back so we can wrap this thing up, right? Okay, so we see, and I'm going to bring up some notes here. So that you all can see this too, right? So when we're talking about Freud, and this is what we talked about with the supervisees, we start. Hold on one second. We talked about because what we've been doing is we're kind of going over some of the ideas of Sigmund Freud and bringing that into real time, but seeing what that looks like in actual practice. Okay. And so we've got like 2 minutes here. All right. And so let's see the conflict that's being resolved, because we know when we're talking about Freud, we're talking about conflict. Okay. We're talking about different conflicts being resolved. Okay. And here we go. And so Freud's path to resolution, right? Insight through psychoanalysis and talk therapy. So the goal here was to bring unconscious conflict and repressed emotions into conscious awareness. She came for anger. She got hurt. Let me repeat that. She came for anger. She got hurt because hurt is the more vulnerable emotion, something we don't even notice because it lies many times on the unconscious because we've been trained and groomed to shut it out. And so the goal here with Freud and with Peter bringing unconscious conflicts and repressed emotions into the conscious awareness, Crone helped this woman. He helped her to understand that her anger and defense mechanisms were covering deeper hurt. Her anger and defense mechanisms were covering deeper hurt and bringing the unconscious emotions into conscious awareness. What else? She discovered a few other things, right? With the discovery that from talking to Peter, she started to learn I am hurt. I also need to be heard. That's what she was lacking, hadn't been heard. I need to be held. I need protection. I need to feel safe. And she thought she was angry. It was not about her anger. Okay. I need to not be judged. I need to be understood. And I need to be able to be in a place where I'm not scared. Okay. Where I'm not scared. That was what she needed. I'm going to end it here. Peter said one other very profound thing that I think also brought it home for her to bringing that stuff from the unconscious to the conscious. Right. Oh boy, we're at time. We're at time. He said, you know what? This is what he said. I can't leave without saying. He said, anger is a survival mechanism for deep hurt. So now she can replace the guilt. Who is that? We learned what that is. The guilt. What's that? Super ego. Super ego trying to guilt you about feeling angry. Okay. We could put that super ego aside. Okay. Round off maybe to a more ego centered response and understand that anger is a survival mechanism, which makes it acceptable. I don't have to be angry about being angry anymore. I don't have to have anger about being angry anymore. I understand because the reason I'm feeling this way is because I have hurt. Man, oh man, oh man. Y'all, that is some deep insights, let me tell you. And this is what we talk about. This is what we talk about in supervision. Now, before I end, I want to make you aware of our free CEU, our free continuing education training that we have coming up. I'm about to shut down the whole thing here. We have a free continuing education training coming up, and we want you to know about that. That will be in October. We will get further information, should be posted on that in just a couple of days. Also, we have for those who want independence and impact in social work, we have a supervisor training coming up. We want you to attend that. That's on November 3rd and 4th. If you're looking to streamline supervision, you need to know how to put something together, how to go out and get clients. We're putting that, making that available for you to be able to level up. And then we're also having, we have the DSM-5 training. Some of y'all may be meeting the deadline for the DSM CEUs. Okay. For those of us who are clinical, we all have to take a training somewhere. We want you to come get it from us. And we have that online on demand. We're going to end it here. And I thank you all for your time. I thank you for tuning in, and we'll see y'all again on next.